be fine. Okay, we are recording.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I am this lady who is here with me right now is a lady that is as a person who's of no small reputation, and you'll find out why in a few seconds, okay? But before we get into that, Mpacho Eteseng.
Well done. I'm so impressed. Wow.
There you go. Not as impressed as I am with you. And our viewers will find out now in a moment. Mm-hmm. By the way, Hedy is, let me introduce to you a woman who has been ranked in the top 50 of thriving women founders, okay? And she's also rated, she also came out #1 in one of Vusi Tembewayo's high-level entrepreneurship programs, and also has been featured on a few of news channels that we have here in South Africa, Newsroom Africa and ENCA, just to name a few. And not to mention Talk Radio 702. I believe you have a show on Radio 702, correct?
Yeah, they did. They featured some of the various individuals from the top 200 young South Africans. So I was very privileged to be one of them.
Exactly, right? That's what I'm saying. Like a woman of no small reputation. And last but not least, has also been featured in one of South Africa's top lifestyle TV shows called Top Billing, right? I'm introducing to you Hedy the entrepreneur. Thank you for accepting the invitation, and I'm happy to have this conversation with you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to our conversation.
Likewise. But without any further ado, I just wanted to find out from you, right? I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, are you from the Ashanti region in Ghana by any chance?
Yes, so my family is from the Ashanti region. My father is Ghanaian and my mother is South African. So I'm just basically a beautiful blend of two really fantastic human beings coming together. And I consider myself both to be Ghanaian and South African, but more importantly, more of a global citizen. But my heart, my soul, my essence is African.
That's it. You know, because I was actually paying attention to your accent. I didn't hear anything that sounds Ghanaian. It's more really? South African than Ghanaian. Yes, well, at least to me, that's what it sounds like to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but thank you for sharing that. So tell me, how did you basically get into entrepreneurship? How did that happen for you? Or were you born an entrepreneur?
You know, that is actually such an interesting question, because just yesterday I was in conversation with my husband about the whole nature versus nurture and whether or not people are born entrepreneurs or if it's something that's cultivated along the way. I think that, and it's such an interesting topic. I honestly believe that all of us have innate entrepreneurial skills that we could harness in order to become good entrepreneurs. However, there are also those individuals who have certain skills, gifts, and talents that are literally assigned to them at birth. And in usage of those, one of the vehicles to manifest those skills and talents would be through entrepreneurship. For myself, if I really look back on my life, I do think that I was probably born an entrepreneur. And one of the reasons why I say that is that I have always had this ability to think out of the box, to create something where there is nothing, to inculcate vision among people so that we are going towards a particular direction with a particular purpose and goal. And I think all of those things are attributes of an entrepreneur. And so in living my life, I haven't necessarily tagged myself as an entrepreneur from the very beginning. However, looking back and looking at my patterns and the way that I've lived my life, I think it's telling an entrepreneurial story.
Right.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because, often I think you've touched on a very important point there, that we all have this innate ability to just be resourceful and this entrepreneurial spirit. But to some extent, I believe, now you may disagree or agree with this, but to some extent, I believe that sometimes the people in our circle of influence are the ones perhaps that may shut down that innate ability or that drive to be an entrepreneur. Or even sometimes our parents can be the ones that, for a lack of a better word to put it, that put out the fire. They put it out completely because out of a sense of wanting to have you get the best education, if you will, or getting the best future, something that is secure and safe, as they would like to put it sometimes. But how has that been for you? What is it that inspired even more for you to become an entrepreneur and to stick to it?
It's interesting because I actually believe that what you were saying is absolutely true. Time and time again, you get individuals that come into the world with certain gifts and talents that are absolutely remarkable. However, it is incumbent upon the people that surround that individual's life, whether it's their parents, their guardians, their teachers, uncles, aunts, friends, family members, society at large. It is actually incumbent on those individuals to pick up on that skill, that talent, that uniqueness, and to find a way to hone it and nurture it in order for it to become greatness. So the streets are littered with the corpses of people that have incredible talent that just simply wasn't nurtured and harnessed, and therefore didn't come to its full fruition or potential. For me, I've been very lucky to have been raised by two individuals that are human beings extraordinaire. People that were able to look at my gifts and my talents and have encouraged me throughout my life to always tap into those gifts and talents, even to the point where when I slack back and, I take it for granted, because we do that, don't we, as human beings? And they will constantly remind me that, Hedy, you're a good communicator. Don't put this to waste. Hedy, you are good at this and this. Don't put it to waste. If you start something, make sure that you finish it. Let it see its full course to fruition or for the extension of its life. And so, because I have had parents like that, it has actually empowered me to be able to pursue the highest version of myself in whatever sphere of life that it may present itself. So I performed at my highest capacity when I was in corporate, in the same way that I perform at my highest capacity as an entrepreneur, in the same way that I perform at my highest capacity as a mentor to my various mentees. So it's so important to have that foundational grounding and to have that community support, because that is what allows you and empowers you to be able to operate at and vibrate at a high frequency.
No, that makes absolute sense, but let me ask you a follow-up question, given that we have people here that are listening in and are wondering and thinking that, hey, what about me? I don't have any support from my parents. I don't have any support system within my family structure or people in my circle of influence. Then what would you say to that person?
What I would say to individuals like that, and unfortunately for a great majority of people, that is the stark reality. And what I would say to those individuals is that You know, in life, there is the hand that life deals you, and then there's also the hand that you deal with life in response to that. And even those of us who have been privileged to have been raised in an environment that is incredibly supportive, there also comes a point in time where you have to be able to go it on your own, where you have to take the chance on yourself, where you have to inculcate the daily disciplines that take you from good to great, where you have to put in the work and work in the trenches for your business, for your career, or for whatever your goals and aspirations are for your life. And so for those individuals, what I would say to them is that truly the power is in their hands. One of the greatest things that a person can build for themselves in this lifetime is a network. Your network of influence within your life is solely and 100% dependent on the seeds that you plant and how you choose to water it and what you put in order to nurture and grow that. So your network and circle of influence are those individuals that are within your core group of network that will either give you advice when you need your advice, that will provide you with guidance, that are able to pick up on your innate skills and gifts, etc., and find ways in which you can harness those skills. It is also a group of individuals in whose brains that you can pick when you are in a dilemma, when you have a challenge, etc. Now, that network of influence within your life is 100 and solely dependent upon yourself. Your parents cannot build it for you. Society cannot build it for you. Your church minister cannot build it for you. It incumbent upon you to recognize for yourself who are the individuals that I am surrounding myself with. Because the person that I'm going to be in the next 5 years is going to be dependent on the people I surround myself with and the books that I read. So if I look at my call log and I look at the last 5 people or the most frequent 5 people that I call, if those people are unhappy in their jobs, if those people have no sense of direction or purpose, if those people are negative naysayers no matter what is presented to them, the 5th person in that line is going to be you. Because you are a reflection of the culminated average of the people that you associate with. So if you want to go higher, you need to surround yourself with people that are on a higher level.
I think you've hit the nail on the coffin right there, because, you know, I think it's great that we can have such conversations because, you know, a lot of the times people suffer in silence. Yeah. They don't surround themselves with the right people. Yeah. And like you've so eloquently put, that you are the average, basically. You're the average of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with.
Absolutely.
And even what you plug into your brain as well. Yeah. You know, what you watch, what you read, you know, those things that you put into your brain. So, in fact, interestingly enough, I have an ebook, and I have a specific chapter in that ebook where I speak specifically about your habits decide your future. Not what you say, but your habits decide your future. Everything that you do on a daily basis, it decides what you become.
Absolutely.
In essence, basically.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Yeah.
So another question I have for you, Hedy, is I noticed something very important or very interesting, something that I found interesting on your Instagram account.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you a question with regards to it, okay?
Yeah.
And that is, what is the very essence of feminism to you? What does it mean to you?
So feminism to me is a concept that was actually introduced to me very late in life. However, when looking back, I now realize that I grew up in a feminist household. My mother is a feminist and my father is a feminist. And it's very interesting because I never had a word to articulate it. However, I knew that my upbringing was slightly different from some other people that I had observed or friends of mine that I had in my life. Growing up, I have never been told that I cannot do something because I'm a girl. I've never been told that I cannot achieve something because I'm a girl, or that I am supposed to do something because I'm a girl. My parents allowed me the freedom to express myself as a human being fully. So I went through a phase where I loved soccer. They never said to me, no, you should rather be playing netball, or that is a boy's sport. They encouraged me to play soccer. I went through a phase where I was a little bit of a tomboy. So if there was a gate, instead of walking through it, I would opt to jump over it. Never once did they ever say to me, no, that's unladylike. That's not what you were supposed to do. They allowed me to grow and transition organically as a human being. So as a result, I have never navigated the world through the lens of being a female. It has only occurred to me that the world treats men and women differently as I began to grow up, as I began to interact with individuals within the corporate space and within the business space, where I would notice that perhaps in certain meetings, people might take my husband more seriously than me, despite the fact that we're saying exactly the same thing. But I have never been raised with the conditioning that because I am a woman, I am either less than or somehow disadvantaged than any other group in society. By the very same token, my parents are extremely strong human beings. And over the years, now looking back retrospectively, I have realized that there's a lot of talk about, men are now looking for strong women, ambitious women, etc., etc. But the reality of what I have seen on the ground is that there are some relationships, partnerships, and marriages that do not survive strong women. Because what it does is it challenges masculinity, it challenges the status quo. So it is one thing to believe something theoretically, it is one thing to be politically correct, but it's another thing to live and breathe it. And it's been interesting to me to look back and realize that I actually grew up in a home in which it was fiercely practiced. My mother is a strong, ambitious woman that has climbed up in her career in ways in which other individuals have not been able to achieve what she has done in half a lifetime. And she is still going. And interestingly enough, my father has always been by her side. He has always cheered her on. I have seen moments of doubt within herself as to whether or not she can take on this new task. And he says, absolutely. How can that even be in question? He's flabbergasted that she cannot see the depth of her own capabilities. And so for me, feminism is allowing all human beings, including women, the opportunity to organically express themselves how they naturally are, without any inhibitions due to the genital makeup that a person has been born with.
Wow. I can just see a lot of women that are listening to this right now just going, hey, Hedy for president. Because that's, I think that's a very important conversation to have, because even for myself as a man, I've had this conversation a number of times with various females, especially my wife, who's a very strong feminist herself, and I think, like you've eloquently put, that it's very important that there's a sense of equality.
Yes.
And there's no sense of marginalizing and saying, no, you cannot do this because of that, because of, no, you're a female, you're a male, so there should just be equality. And thank you for that incisive view of what feminism means to you.
Thank you.
Now, I just want to say, I just want to have you backtrack a little bit. I heard you mention something about your corporate career when you were in corporate. Yeah. I want to just draw out something specifically there, basically for the purpose of educating, and helping people widen their horizon in terms of how they see it and how they view it. Yeah. So did you at any time, at any given moment while you were working in corporate, get promoted or aspire to a promotion? Can you remember anything specifically where during corporate that you got promoted or you were aspiring towards a promotion? Can you just relate that a little bit?
Absolutely. So when I started in corporate, I started at a very junior level. And even the position that I started in, so I worked at an investment bank, a very prestigious investment bank, and I worked within the editorial department. So I started within that department as a junior editor. And even when I went in, they kind of took a punt on me because they were looking for a very specific individual to fill that post. And that position had been open for several months. And they were not willing to move forward until they found just the right person. And in order for me to even get that position, I did a lot of research about the company. So even at the time of the interview, I went through 5 interview stages before I was finally offered the position. Wow. And even at the time of the interview, I was so well prepared. I was so determined to get that position that I knew that no was not even an option. I learned about the history of the company. I learned about who would be meeting me when I arrived, what their name is and what their position is in the company. I learned about who the different panelists would be that would be interviewing me. I then went on to Google and research about their own career history so that I could then weave that into my answers. So every question that they asked that would appear generic to them, I actually answered it in a personalized version because I wanted to show them that I am already a part of this team. And when you enter corporate, there are certain peculiarities that you go through, particularly when you are in corporate South Africa and as a Black female. There is an automatic burden of proof that you actually deserve to be in that position, that you are qualified to be in that position, and that you actually have value to offer to the organization and more specifically to the team that you have joined. And so I spent the great majority of my corporate career proving myself and making sure that I became an asset to the team that I was in. So by the time that I had left corporate in choosing the entrepreneurial journey, I'd already reached the top of my game within the editorial field. I already had individuals that were reporting. And that is the core objective of what I wanted to achieve. And so it's really pleasing for me to look back on my corporate career and to realize that I actually exited having achieved what I entered, having achieved the vision that I entered into corporate with.
No, I think that's such a great insight, because I think a lot of people, they come unprepared. They kind of want to wing it when they go for job interviews or when they are about to come across a certain opportunity, if you will. So preparation, at least that's the essence of what I got here. Preparation, and also that, you had that burden that so many females in the corporate space, and maybe not necessarily just only in the corporate environment, but in various workplace situations and scenarios, that there's this sense of just having to prove yourself because you're a woman. And with your background and how you were raised and your upbringing, that's like a totally antithesis of what is known to you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. So another question that I have for you is, what would you say is the biggest life lesson you've learned in your entire life? If you could name just one big lesson that you've had in your entire life, what would that be?
Wow. I wonder if it's a lesson or if it is a way of life, a way of navigating the world. But one thing that I have chosen to do is that in all situations, no matter who it is that I'm meeting, no matter where it is that I am meeting them, I am committed to always arrive as my authentic self. Now, it seems a bit of an anomaly for it to be a radical thing to just be oneself. And yet for me, I have found it to be one of the hardest things in the world to do. Because once you have left the cocoon of your home and your upbringing, the world begins to throw labels and tags at you. You're a woman, therefore you should behave this way. You're a Black person, therefore you should behave this way. You are young, therefore you should behave this way. So when you arrive at any given situation, before you've even opened your mouth, a person takes a snapshot of what you look like, and then they conclude as to this is what this person must be. She's Black, she's female, she's probably struggled in life, or she's probably a strong Black woman. So even in those labels that sometimes people think are a compliment, it's actually a disservice, because it doesn't allow you the space to be vulnerable. It doesn't allow you the fullness of a human experience, which is what we are, right? And so for me, I have then told myself that in any given situation that I find myself in, whether it's a one-on-one conversation, whether I'm on a stage, whether I'm addressing a group of people, I am going to just arrive as myself. I am not going to try and concoct myself, try and change myself and mold myself for the comfort of others or what society deems to be acceptable. I will arrive as myself, I will be my authentic self, and the correct people will be drawn to me and I will be drawn to them. And anybody else that falls outside of that, I am at peace with the fact that perhaps it just was not meant to be.
That's it. You know, I think you hit the nail on the coffin there in terms of in answering the question and the subject of this whole discussion, which is how to find purpose and direction with Hedy the entrepreneur, right? How to find purpose and direction. Be your authentic self. You know, because I think, like you've said, you attract the right people by being yourself. And there's only one Hedy.
Exactly.
And everyone else who can't accept Hedy or Jabulani for who they are, then they're just gonna kind of fall down by the wayside.
Absolutely.
And life carries on. Life carries on, you know. And I think you've answered a very important question there on how you can find purpose and direction, because of how the world is influenced, like you said, you know, sometimes there's a whole lot of things that come to us or that we are exposed to in the world that end up dictating, if you will, how we respond, how we react to certain things in certain situations in life. Right? So I think maybe to just add on that,
Mm-hmm.
what else comes to mind when you think of the words, finding purpose and direction? What else has helped Hedy find purpose and direction in her life?
One of the things that has helped me find purpose and direction is having an honest conversation with myself in terms of where do my passions lie and where does my strength lie. I've realized, and one of the greatest gifts being a full-time entrepreneur has given me is the ability to navigate and design my own life. I think that had I remained in corporate, life may have possibly just happened to me, as opposed to me choosing to design my own life. So by looking at what my passions are and where my strengths are, I am then able to identify where my natural gifts and abilities lie that were assigned to me at birth. I believe with every ounce of my being that every single human being has a purpose on this earth. I do not believe that you just come into the world, you just let life happen to you. Oh, some days are great, some days are bad, gosh, it's a doozy, and then you're out of here. I simply don't believe that. Because even the science behind a human being coming to life, it's so miraculous that it cannot be by mistake. And so I therefore think that every single person has a purpose. I've looked at my own life, I've looked at the pattern of my life, because our lives are continuously talking to us and telling us a story. If we take the time to sit back and pay attention, there are certain consistent truths that keep appearing in our lives. And I have looked back on that, and one of the things I have come to realize is that in all areas of my life, no matter where I find myself, I always find myself in a position where I'm helping people. It is the strangest and the weirdest thing. Even when I don't set out with that intention, that is actually what happens. Now, the interesting thing about that is that in helping people, it feeds me too. It enriches me too. There are lessons that I learn from that too. And I walk out of those situations a richer person than when I had walked into those situations. That has come to make me realize that it's not a coincidence that this is happening. Part of my purpose is aligned with serving others, helping others to grow their businesses and achieve greatness within their own lives. The second thing that I have come to realize, which is my strength, and it's so important that everybody needs to do a strength finder exercise to understand what their particular unique strength is. I have come to the realization that I am a good communicator.
No doubt.
It is something that was clearly assigned to me at birth. Now, my responsibility is to identify that and to hone that in and to use it in alignment with my purpose. So for me, the purpose question is a fundamental one, because once a person has determined what their purpose is on earth, everything else, all of your future goals, decisions, planning, etc., should therefore be in alignment with that. So I could be a good communicator and decide to be a kindergarten teacher. Those kids will have the great benefit of my good communication skills, but it may not necessarily be in alignment with my purpose. So I've recently, and I think having COVID and being in isolation has been a fantastic opportunity for me to really hone in on those strength finder exercises in terms of where do my strengths lie, where does my passion lie, What are the activities that I do that when I do them, it feeds me, but it also gives back to the world? So I'm also contributing to my environment. And from there, I'm able to then determine the various paths that I want to be able to take.
Yeah, you know, I think really, honestly speaking, that is just, you know, really insightful. I'm learning so much here. And I know for a fact that those people who are listening in here and trying to find purpose, trying to find meaning, you know, in their lives will greatly benefit from this. And yeah, thank you for those thoughts and those sentiments. So speaking about, you just mentioned something now about basically what you said something to the effect of, I'm losing my train of thought here. Yeah, you said something to the effect of every person having a purpose in this life to fulfill.
Absolutely.
Right? And that every person basically, wherever you go, they're kind of making a snapshot or a judgment, if you will, of you, of the kind of person you are.
Yes.
You know? Now, I know that you don't know me personally yet, well, at least not yet. You've never met me yet, right? What is your first impression of me? You can give it to me. The good, the bad, the ugly, I can take it. What is your first impression of me? And just give it to me straight, plainly.
So when you actually approached me for us to have this conversation, I felt that the timing was incredibly apt. And because the topic of the conversation was things that I've been mulling over and thinking about of late. So I thought that this cannot just be then a coincidence, you know? And sometimes even in conversing with another individual, it brings clarity to one's mind as well. So I thought perhaps maybe that's one of the reasons why this is meant to happen. And even over and above that, if it helps somebody else in the process, then yay, it's a win-win all around. The other thing that I felt that this was a necessary conversation is because I'm currently going through a process of the year of yes. So where possible, where something is within my capacity, I will say yes. No matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how uneasy it is, no matter how out of my comfort zone it is, I am going to say yes. Because when you say yes to enough things, it opens your eyes, it opens your brain, it opens your perspective. And I felt that this is such a pertinent conversation. Then when I went onto your Instagram page, I enjoyed the content that you had on there. For me, social media is no longer what it used to be in the past. In the past, it was a place to scroll mindlessly, while away time, get entertained, get inspired by beautiful people doing beautiful things and looking beautiful. Now, I have decided to orchestrate my social media feed as a way to feed my brain and to feed my mind. And so, because social media runs on an algorithm, the more you look at, the more it will show you of. So if you are looking at Slay Queens the whole day, the more it's going to recommend Slay Queen pages. And I mean, there's really nothing wrong with that. However, I just felt that I want to feed my brain, I want to feed my mind. So with any request that then comes my way, I look to see, is there alignment with the values and principles that this person stands for with my values and principles as well? Is there something to be learned from an engagement with this person? And upon coming upon your page, I felt that I had value to offer, but I also felt that you had value to offer as well. And therefore, it would be a mutually beneficial exchange and conversation, which is exactly what is happening right now. It doesn't feel like an interview. It feels like I am having a conversation with a like-minded person from whom we are both benefiting.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, so, and like, I also felt the proclivity for some reason, to reach out to you. And again, the concept of feminism, it didn't hit me. Oh, no, she's a woman. I just thought, hey, this is an entrepreneur that I can learn from.
Yes.
Right? And there could be an exchange of value,
Yes.
And I don't want to be thinking like that, to say, oh, no, let's only look at men or women only, it just doesn't matter. It's
Absolutely.
just, about value and having a great conversation that it can be very educational as well, because I think you touched on a very important point there, that whatever you look at the most is what the algorithm of whatever social media that you're using will give you more.
Absolutely.
Right? These things, like, they're so orchestrated, they're so engineered, they're carefully engineered. And a lot of us don't realize that, hey, actually, the more of whatever I watch is the more they will show me,
Exactly.
I think for the people listening in here, there's a lot to take away from this conversation and to learn. You were about to say something?
I was just about to say that it's interesting because in a way that algorithm is also a gift, because it mirrors back to us where our mindset is at. It mirrors back to us what we view to be important. It mirrors back to us the things that we want to fill our spare time with. And so it is actually a reflection of who we are. So if you don't like what you see, then you can change it. However, it really gives us insight into actually who we are. So if you picked up my phone today and I wasn't in the room and you scrolled through my timeline should be able to tell you a story of who Hedy is, what kind of comedy she enjoys, which celebrity she follows, and all of that type of stuff. But I've just become so in tune with the fact that social media has become such an intricate part of our daily lives that one would be naive to think that it doesn't influence us, our thinking, our mindset, the way in which we approach the world. So if we are following individuals that are able to feed us in a manner that empowers us and grows us, then we are all the more better for it. So, we often speak of the pros and cons of social media. Look, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So you either use it to your advantage or it will use you to its advantage.
You know what? You and I have a lot in common, We have so many things in common, I kid you not, because that's truly what I believe as well. What you just said right now, that, what you feed your mind is, in essence, what you become,
Yes.
And so, in conclusion, before I let you go, I know you have a really hectic schedule. You're a busy woman, and I don't take it lightly that you accepted this interview. And in fact, as a token of my appreciation, as a token of my appreciation for agreeing to this interview, I'm going to give you a copy of my brand new ebook. It's actually coming out July 31st. However, it's available right now on an early bird pre-order special. But as a token of my appreciation for your time, I want to send you your own copy of
that's
my
wonderful.
ebook.
Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. And lastly, I mean, I had to dress up for Hedy, I had to dress up for Hedy because, I think you're a woman who has this interesting sense of style just by looking at your Instagram feed and your page there, So I had to look the part as well.
Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you for inspiring that. You inspired that.
That's awesome.
But thanks again for your time, and I appreciate your time. I don't take it lightly, and I'll be sending you that copy of your ebook. And please rave about it to everyone in your circle of influence, and everyone whom you feel would greatly benefit from it. Please, I'd highly appreciate the support.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. I think maybe just some parting words from myself before we end this off. I think that conversations like this are very important. And often at times when we talk about purpose, one's purpose in the world, and when we talk about direction, we often view those as soft skills. So as a result of that, particularly within African households, we don't always have those conversations about what is your purpose, what direction do you want your life to take. We kind of follow a template-based life where you take your kids to school, they'll choose whatever career, and we take it from there. But I think that it is incumbent upon this generation and future generations to have these conversations, because the greatest human beings that you can think of, if you think of anybody inspirational or somebody that motivates you or inspires you, those are individuals that have been very clear about what their purpose on this earth is. And often at times we look at them and we think, oh, this person was just special. But often at times what actually happens is a person has defined for themselves or understood what their purpose is on earth and has therefore orchestrated their lives with daily repetitive principles and disciplines in order to achieve their end goal. And that is what we need to begin to inculcate within our society from a very, very young age. It doesn't matter if you were conceived in a bush somewhere or in a backseat somewhere or in a shack in Alexandra. Your life has the same value and weighting and meaning as a person who was conceived in a high-rise building in Sandton. And if we as a society can be able to understand the fact that all of us have got natural gifts and talents and a reason for being on this earth, we can hone in on so much more talent that is currently going to waste simply because we haven't opened up our eyes enough to see the gifts that are in front of us. So in as much as I want to encourage people to seek their own purpose, their own talent, their own skill set, I also want to challenge people to look around them to see what other gifts, talents, and skill sets are around you among the young people that we can hone in so that we grow and create more and more groups and cultures of excellence within our society.
Wow, I couldn't have closed this conversation in any better way, because I believe truly that these conversations ought to happen a lot more often than what we usually see in society. And I'm a firm believer that one needs to be the change that they desire to see. And I believe you strike me as a woman who is being about the change that you desire to see in society. You know, and that's part of the reason I wrote this book that I wrote, right? It's to help change the mindset, help people realize that it doesn't matter where you were born, it doesn't matter your circumstances, they cannot define who you become. You need to, you know, think out of the box. In fact, throw the box out, you know? So something like that. So, but thank you again, Hedy. It was a great pleasure to have this conversation with you. I sincerely hope that this is the start of many other conversations to come as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure.
All right. Well, you take care and have yourself a good one.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers.